Yeah, so Kelly Gellard photographer. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Busy as always. What about yourself?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I mean, do you want to sort of introduce yourself a bit, just so people kind of know a bit about you?
Yep. So I'm Kelly Gellard. I'm founder of Kelly Gellard Photography, which is a photography and retouching service based in London. But obviously, I do travel out around the UK as well. I'm also a creative assistant. So for other extremely established photographers or for brands, for social media and stuff like that. But yeah, it's predominantly a photography business.
Awesome. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the retouching side? Because you know, I don't know anything about retouching, so
Yeah, so retouching, I personally use Adobe Photoshop. So I was trained, I went before uni, I went into uni having no idea. I think I was two of a class of like 30 or 40 that hadn't ever used Photoshop. And I embarrassingly put my hand up to tell the teacher. So yeah, I basically learned throughout uni really how to use it and then just played around with it a little bit more. And yeah, so I use Photoshop for all my retouching work. I've heard that Lightroom is super good nowadays as well. So I know a lot of photographers and well-established kind of content creators that work both on Adobe and Lightroom or just Lightroom. So that's definitely on the list of something to get learning and kind of like get equipped with, really.
yeah. I mean, that's my sort of go-to is Lightroom.
Yeah.
My friend um, who you've spoken to that I put you in contact with him the other day, Camillo.
Oh yeah.
He
Yeah.
was kind enough to lend me his login and stuff, and that's definitely what I'm more familiar with
Yeah.
is Lightroom. Looking at your work, I mean, I'm fangirling a bit, but but
I'll take that.
yeah, I mean, what about London Fashion Week? Like
Yeah,
that
I know.
is,
Yeah.
and genuinely, I have seen these photos before. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
cool.
know whether someone had like retweeted it or something, or I don't know, but I am certain that I have seen it.
Yeah, they've gone out a lot. They've been in like magazines and international like Instagram pages and stuff. So yeah, they're probably flying around. But to be fair, something I'd say from London Fashion Week that I actually never really knew is how quick it is. So there's so many photographers that I know or see there that we're literally say you've got like an event at 10 and a catwalk at 1 and another one at 3 or something like that. There's so many people that in those times are just hopping into coffee shops and doing their selection process and retouching two images, posting out to social media, sending it to a magazine. Like the speed is insane. Like a week after London Fashion Week, you're already
Wow.
considered too late if you're sending things out. And I think that is extremely different to kind of like more commercial or fashion like kind of a lookbook or a campaign photo shoot. You take It's okay if you take 2 3
Yeah.
kind of weeks to retouch, but this is super quick. Like it's literally in the moment. They want almost paparazzi slash documentary photography rather than actually high fashion. Obviously they want high fashion quality and retouching, but they don't want the time. So yeah, no, that's definitely something from London Fashion Week that I never even knew or realised, to be fair. But you live and you learn,
That's
which is
insane.
really cool.
Because I mean, if someone had said to me, "How do you think the sort of the background of London Fashion Week works?" I would imagine I
Mm,
would have said this is. I mean, this is what I would have thought is that while it's actually going on, it's very hectic and everything's going and it's
mm,
really quick. But then I would have thought with sort of retouching and editing the photos, I
mm,
thought they would have given you like
yeah.
as much time as you needed.
It's crazy, and I think some people are commissioned throughout specific magazines, so they kind of say, "Hey, like you need to get these shows on the list. You need to get images. We need to get them in I don't know a few hours or a couple of days." But I actually just did it freelance, so I went there, shot retouched, and then sent it out to magazines, or then sent it out to like freelancers or people I knew that were kind of after the content. Um, but yeah, like there was a little coffee shop I was going to like 3 or 4 times in one day, and there was so many other photographers or creatives like just sat there on their laptops doing the same, and it was full. It was literally like a 2-minute walk from the venue, but it was just full of London fashion like models, photographers, and it was almost like a networking
Yeah.
event. It was amazing. But yeah, so I think like the speed of it, I don't know if it's always been like that over the years, but it's definitely like it's kind of first come first serve now. Like there's a lot of magazines I approached or like send content to, and they were like, already got that show, like no worries. So it wasn't always about the maybe as much so the quality. It was just having it first and putting it out as quick as possible, which is definitely an experience and definitely a challenge. I wouldn't say it's my favorite way of working, but it's good practice, and it was really good in the moment. And also it kind of forces you to be a bit quicker, because I'm quite a slow retoucher, slow selective process photographer, and I like to take my time to make like, and definitely a perfectionist if I'm being honest. But yeah, it was quite nice shooting, retouching in that kind of process, because I realized in 3 weeks I was like, wow, like 2,000 images or something, which usually would have probably taken me weeks to go through, retouch,
2,000.
post schedule. Yeah, probably
Wow.
more. Like, what actually was just out and sorted in 3 weeks, and I was like, well, on to the next
Jeez.
project. So yeah,
Wow. I mean,
crazy.
just like you say, that is definitely a great skill to work on, because I'm the same. I like to take my time, and one of my sort of, oh, it's almost like a mantra is I will take a photo and then leave them for like a couple of weeks and go back with. So I've sort of, yeah, like sort of
Fresh view.
detached myself from it so I can be a bit more critical. Um, but that is crazy.
That this type of way of working helps you be extremely critical, like so quick, because I shot like 20 bloggers and I really liked 15 shots. I'd be going through on I personally use Adobe Bridge for my selection process, and I'd be like, yep, no, or maybe, I'll just put it into notes. And it helps you literally make a decision within the hour, rather than being like, oh, I'll see what I think tomorrow. I'll see if my eye changes within the next day, or I'll retouch both. So yeah, it definitely like pushes your brain to just be like, if it was an initial maybe, put it to a no pile, so that you don't have like 100 new images on your like Instagram or website, because also sometimes you actually don't need that
Yeah,
many. You might only want like 5 strongest from every show or something. Especially Instagram, if you flood your Instagram with it, I find some people need to see like your other work, otherwise it just looks like, because some photographers only do London Fashion Week. So yeah, I think it was quite nice to meet new people and be like, hey, this is like 2 or 3
yeah.
rows in my London Fashion Week, but I also do, but this is my usual style kind of thing. So yeah, it was
Sort of
cool.
talking about Instagram, yours is so like well organized.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
so neat. Like, is
Yay.
that something? Because you said before that you're a perfectionist. Is that something? Is that because you're a perfectionist, or is that something that maybe you have consciously thought, I'll do this because it shows my organization or something? You know, like, is there a reason behind it, or?
So, so there's a couple of reasons really. I'd say, first of all, because I have like a part-time role, which is pretty much just 1 day a week, but it's as a social media kind of like manager and content like creator and kind of organizer. But I'd say I've learned a lot from, or not even learned, but practiced a lot from that, of like kind of which directions I quite like social media to go to and fro. So for example, I'm, especially being a photographer, but I'm obsessed with color. So I can't put like, I don't know, like an orange and a navy together. Like I'd have to, my navies would have to go to greens and my oranges would have to go
Yeah,
to yellows, like, or something like that, so that it all kind of fades in and out. So that's probably the biggest kind of like way I work. So I use an app called Plannerly. So shout out to them because they're really, really cool. So I just have like their free membership, and basically you can just put all your images in and it comes up with your Instagram as well. And you can just shuffle them and juggle them. And basically you can then decide what kind of like, um, how do you say it, like what order you like them. So example, I'll try with a blue row, or then I'll try with all the portraits, or then I'll try with all of one specific brand. And if I don't like the way it goes, I'll just keep reshuffling till I do. And it's really cool because Instagram doesn't allow you to do this, but there's no sort of app. I think Later is really good for it, or Letter, but you can't actually test how it's going to look and reshuffle. You just have to schedule. So yeah, exactly. And which is, I was like, oh God, like I was doing my own little PowerPoints trying to see which ways I preferred them. And I was like, this is just too long-winded. So once I heard and kind of tried to use Planly, I was like, yes, like this is the one. But yeah, basically I just test, it's just trial and error till I find one I like, really. And yeah, and then after that, I basically schedule them, add all like the credits, the hashtags, and so on, and then it comes out. So, for example, things coming out now might have been scheduled a month ago, but but I might have done the shoot 3 weeks ago and then done all the organisation 2 weeks before that or something. So yeah, it's definitely a process now, Instagram, and well, I can get into that later, but it's definitely a business platform. So I do put a lot of time into it. And to be fair, you get a lot back of the time you put in, from new clients and from the way it looks and visuals and stuff. So yeah, I do definitely do a lot of planning into it. So that's a straight answer to yes. And it is obviously that I'm a perfectionist, so I kind of have to have it like that. Sometimes I've got like 3 shoots that are done, completed, retouched, ready to go, but I'm like, I haven't found the perfect like order yet, so they're not out.
No, that's.
So, yeah,
I mean, I've obviously met photographers that will stick to a specific theme. So you get a lot of people that will photograph maybe black and white portraits, and they'll release like 9 of those, and then they'll do another 9 of something else. But the blending of yours, I mean, I'm scrolling through it now, and it flows really well, and that's something that I have thought about, but not to the depth that you have. Like I've sort of thought, I'll post these photos because they match, and I mean my Instagram is just a mess. I mean I've been saying it a lot on this podcast, but I've been saying it a lot just in my teacher training year. So
nice, congrats.
Thanks. So this past year has been more tailored towards that. So I need to get it all back together. But I think that is definitely valuable advice for people that are starting out. Because I mean, would you say that Instagram is kind of like a portfolio as well?
Exactly, yeah. So I've made a lot of conscious efforts. I got to a point where it was kind of like after uni, and I was getting some clients, but not enough to kind of have a lot of content. But so I tried to just post as much as I could then. And I'd say that's definitely like a tip for start outs. Just keep posting, keep hashtagging, because if people like your work, they're going to follow anyway. They're not going to be like, doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. But once you're maybe getting bigger clients, then that is often what draws them. It's kind of, oh, this does look professional, or oh, she must be an established photographer, so I'll follow. But first of all, I'd say just post as much as possible, and definitely hashtag, because that's what gets you followers, really. Not hashtagging is more so for like people that already follow you seeing what you've done, but I'd say the hashtag is to grow. But yeah, I think to start with, I was kind of doing as much as, like, posting as much as possible, but I think as soon as you veer into pretty much full-time freelance, you generate so much more content that you can actually be a little bit more vigorous and choose kind of what you want to put up, because there's so much. For example, I do a lot of events as well, but there's so many images from events. For example, a client might want 20 to 40 final images, whereas a fashion shoot, they might want 3 to 8. So kind of the 3 to 8, I can use them all because they're highly retouched and they're kind of like the strongest ones in the finals. Whereas an event, you get to a point where you're like, oh, but I like these 20, but then that's going to take up so many rows. And as soon as someone looks at you, they're going to be like, oh, okay, event photographer. Because in this day and age, not many of us has got time to go through maybe any more than 5 scrolls. Kind of like people just think, oh, cool, nice work, next. So yeah, I try and keep it quite, not too much content from every shoot, just so that if that's not someone's style, then there's probably another shoot that is. Or for example, if a musician or an artist is looking at my Instagram and they've seen 7 Rows of Beauty, they're probably going to be like, yeah, okay, cool, like not really for me, but it's nice. Whereas actually I probably have done a lot of artist work, it's just not at the top. So and as you mentioned previously, because it is your portfolio, you do want to be quite choosy at points and picky. So that's what I find. Like I try not to, to be fair, I don't post any behind the scenes, any event work, just because I think there'd be too much of it. Sometimes my work's been used in like posters or magazine covers, and there's actually a shoot I did a couple of weeks ago, and it's for a film called The Bizonians, and it's featuring Vinnie Jones. And that's the front cover of the film. So, and I wanted to use that, but then I also thought, like it's not going to flow, and two, do I repeat it or do I put 2 white blocks at the end, because there's only one image? So I probably will use it, obviously, because he's the star actor in it. But sometimes I just try and think, like, is it worth just the one showing of it in terms of actually the flow? So yeah, it's just being choosy, really. Like I've made a conscious effort not to use events, not to use behind the scenes, but for example, something like a poster or a film cover, music cover, magazine cover, I probably would use that, because it shows like that you've done that, and that you've been strong enough, your work's been strong enough to be actually used as the main kind of like attraction and traffic. So yeah, I'd say just a bit of choice, like, and being a bit harsh with yourself sometimes, really.
No, that's really great. And like I say, I mean, I'm sure there are other people that have done the same as me, where they've thought, I'll post these types of photos. But that is definitely something people that are listening to this should look into, is sort of take what you've done and use that as inspiration. And especially because, I mean, I do say that Instagram, it certainly can be a portfolio,
100%,
and
yeah.
often cases it really is. And if you put the same amount of care and attention into your Instagram, just as much as you would in like maybe a portfolio that you've got somewhere else on your laptop or something, or maybe in physical prints, it's that care, and even if you, like you say, even if you are being picky, it's all totally beneficial, and it's
100%. Because I'd say at first, as soon as I was on like a photo shoot, a film set, I wouldn't be picky. I'd just post behind the scenes because it looks like you're doing something. So definitely, I wouldn't say be picky to start with. It's just when you've got more content and you feel like, oh my God, like I could be posting all of this, then try and be a little bit more, picky and vigorous with what kind of things you put up, just because you've got enough of it, kind of thing. And it doesn't matter if you're not posting for a good few weeks, because you want your top things to be at the top. Like I literally have not posted since we've come out of lockdown, because it's just, I've thankfully and so luckily been fully booked and been the busiest I've ever been in terms of freelance work. So I haven't posted, but then throughout lockdown, I was getting every shoot I'd probably ever done on there, just because I had nothing to post and I had time to do it. So yeah, I wouldn't say be picky to start with, just because, for example, if I go on a freshly graduate like person's Instagram and they've contacted me like, hey, like would love to assist you, blah blah, I will look just if they've been on a film set before, or just to see if they've been on a photo shoot, and it doesn't really sway my decision. But if they have, it does, well, I suppose it does sway my decision, but it kind of makes me think, okay, all right, so at least she might know some of the technical terms, or so and so. Or I'll think, actually, I'll bring her or he to maybe a smaller shoot, whereas I'll have someone who's already been on a couple of sets on a budget, on a client budget shoot, so that then potentially I can pay them as well. So I think, at least to start with, definitely for anyone kind of like listening out there and they're like, oh, do I post, don't I post? To start with, I'd say post every time you're on a film set, you're doing something creative, create highlights, put stories up, post. Whereas once you're becoming a little bit established, and actually getting quite a good amount of clientele, maybe through Instagram, or you've got some more high-end kind of like creatives and established freelancers on there, then be more picky, because you just kind of want to portray what you're doing that's top-notch. So
yeah. I suppose as well, it sort of shows a bit of progression as well. Like if you've sort of gone from maybe not being able to post the way that you do, if this like
Yeah, yeah.
hypothetical person is just sort of posting whatever they can, and they are then able to build up and
Yep,
post
that's true as well.
like a succession of images, it definitely shows.
That's true, actually. Like, I've kind of deleted all my old younger bits, so it probably would have been quite nice for someone to see when I'd started, where I was when I kind of started, yeah, and then kind of been able to go from there to now. But yeah, that's a good point. I'd never thought of that, but I'd say, yeah, definitely, like, maybe keep some stuff on there, just neaten up, like delete a few bits, and then you've kind of got behind the scenes one line, something else with another line. Da, da, da. Yeah, no, definitely. I'd say Instagram is definitely like a crazy new level now, like of not like, I don't even consider it social media. Like, I used to have obviously my personal Instagram before my business one, and I barely even go on my personal now, just because the business one is always so busy that it kind of, like, now someone says social media to me and I think, oh, work. Like, I don't even think of it as actually personal. Like, that I barely use my Facebook, barely use like Snapchat, all of these social media bits. Like, they can impact your business so well that actually in the end you kind of get drawn and sucked into that side of it rather than your own life, which yeah, I think you've got to keep a happy medium. But I'd actually, the biggest tip to do with social media, I'd say, is always keep it separate. Like, no one wants to see your like night out Saturday 2 for 1 cocktails type of lifestyle.
Yeah, running around with like a pitcher and spoons is not something that
Exactly.
maybe a client wants to see. I know, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I don't actually have a personal sort of Instagram. Mine is just for my photos. I think there's one photo actually of me, and I think that was at my graduation. But everything else is sort of
Oh, that's all right
yeah,
though.
yeah.
That
It's not a, like I say, it's not a picture with like 5 of me mates or something. Um,
with some like googly glasses and the peace sign or
yeah,
something, or
yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, just because you have got great experience and you've worked in some amazing sorts of
oh, thank
you've worked on
you.
some amazing projects that I've been telling some of my friends about. Genuinely, I was like, right, I'm going to fangirl for a bit, but there's this person, she's awesome.
Jokes.
And I suppose, how how did you sort of get started? Like, how did you sort of think, I want to do that?
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. So I obviously can run through, so like how I started it, like, and running through qualifications and stuff. But I'd say probably like my mum, partner, and best friend could just say it's due to being a workaholic, and not even that, but just like, I think as I'm come to realize that I'm actually lucky to have known from quite young what I wanted to do. And to be fair, none of my family are in the creative industry or freelancing or anything like that, so it was definitely off my own back in terms of like, I had no actually like push or kind of like sway in terms of like someone being like, oh, try this. But yeah, I kind of started off in so I did photography at GCSE, really enjoyed it actually, because I liked art, but I couldn't draw. So yeah, so I can't, and even now if I try and sketch, I'm like, yep, this is the reason that I didn't do art. So yeah, I kind of tried photography, really enjoyed photography, and then did photography A level. I was also quite into theatre and dance and so on, and I liked directing,
mhm.
probably from my bossy side. um, so yeah, so I tried, so I did a lot of directing and choreographing and stuff like that, but I always realized I liked the freeze frame and the kind of still image. So I picked up a camera to like kind of reference what I was trying to achieve, and the kind of like style I wanted it in. And then it kind of grew from there, really. Like, I kept shooting and photographing more, and then I was like, seemed to be in front of the camera more than I was ever really directing any like collegey things and anything like that. So I focused on photography. I got my A level, and then realized when I went to uni, well, when I was looking for photography courses at uni, that a lot focused on like landscapes or darkroom and stuff like that. And I always just kind of personally was like, that doesn't excite me as much as like
Yeah.
people or portrait or fashion. So then I was like, okay, like I obviously like people, and I got my highest grades in my units at college from people photography, and my teacher was very like quite good at spotting that. She was like, well, maybe it's just because you're more passionate about shooting with actual people, and I'm quite a people person anyway, so maybe that kind of helps. So yeah, then I looked for fashion courses, and that was it. I was like, yes, I'm sold. Like I was so like inspired by just going to like 3 open days like for fashion photography degree courses. So I was like, yeah, that's the one. And then part of me was like, I don't even know if to go to university, because I was like, what am I going to learn there? Like it's meeting people that I need to do, or like being in a studio. I was like, what am I going to get out of an educational degree? But anyway, I did. And I'm glad I did, because it taught me, as I said, retouching Photoshop and lighting, to do it correctly, so that and all my tutors used to kind of say this. They were like, you have to do it correctly because and output it correctly, because otherwise your shot might look lovely on your website or Instagram or something, but if you print it big size to a poster, the definition could just be gone purely because you haven't shot in the right format. And how kind of sad would that be if it's a big client or someone that you've worked with over time, and so on. So yeah, no, it definitely taught me to do things in the right way. So shooting in CR2 for photographers don't know and stuff, and shooting in RAW, and kind of like saving in Photoshop correctly so you don't minimize the quality of the image and so on. So yeah, no, it was good for
Yeah.
that. It was just, it didn't get me any contacts kind of thing. So I was like, damn, this is what I need. But yeah, like a lady came in that I was hugely inspired by, and she's actually an amazing stylist. She worked for Notion magazine as well, which I later interned for, and she's called Kira Libretti. And yeah, she basically came in to talk, and I don't think I'd ever sat in a more in a lecture or kind of like a chat that I'd ever been more inspired by. And you know, when you just really connect to someone, I was
Yeah.
like, her level of passion is what I feel, but can never seem to express to anyone that's like on the same level as me. So I dropped her an email. I don't think I heard anything. Then we went to get our in our 100 hours work experience, and I dropped her another one a few months later, and she responded, and I honestly felt my heart like triple bounce, and I was like, oh. So anyway, yeah, I did my internship there, and I was just like so fortunate, and I learned a lot, and we've kept in contact as well. And she works like on some amazing music videos now. When I was in my internship, we worked with Wretch 32 and Mo Stack and stuff like that, and I was just thinking like, this is 1,000,000% my vibe, the way where I want to be. And I just feel myself like knowing kind of what I'm doing, even though I'm still so junior. So yeah, like and it was just so inspirational. Then I did another internship at Fault magazine. I tried to push 2 in that summer, and that was through probably my most inspirational photographer like that I ever really looked into, and he's called Jack Alexander, and he basically it was the first person I'd followed. He'd had like a page on Facebook, and I was like, love literally all of these 20 shots. I was like, so
Yeah.
yeah, got in contact, blah blah. We had a chat, and we've kept in contact ever since. And this was before degree. This was when I was like studying my A levels, and yeah, he's just super amazing. And he then, for my final major project, I basically put on an exhibition in London, and it wasn't meant to be this like massive, but like they basically, so my uni were like, hey, like you can do like a exhibition in the school, in the university, or do something in a cafe close by, or whatever. And I was like, I want to do it in London. Like I was like, I want to move to London anyway after uni. I was like, and I just want to get everyone in. So I I literally remember on the weekends I was coming up to London, putting posters like on Shoreditch Wall, like on all the train station, the bus stops, like being like, come to my exhibition. I hired what was it called, the Hoxton basement in London, which I like saved for, and it was so expensive, but it was like I was like, it's fine. So I got my friends, my family to do the exhibition with me, like put everything up and take it down on the same day and night, which was crazy. Yeah, and that went off. That was so good. Like I literally think I invited 200 to 300 people, like so many like inspirations in London I've always just like really been into and stuff like that. And I mean, most of them didn't come, but it's always like a good talking point for after the exhibition, because then I did a follow-up email and I was like, hey, like, this is what went on, like, that you didn't come to. So yeah, just basically being like, if you've ever need a photographer, if you ever need an assistant at that point, or catch a coffee, and so on, like, it'd be great to chat. And a few of them did get back. So it's little things like that I found really push you out and do in the end get client contact and exposure as well. So then after that I pretty much graduated and was like, London, like.
Where did you graduate from?
So oh god, I'm a bit of a mix, but I was brought up in Switzerland. My mum is Italian, so I'm half Italian. My dad's English and Anglo-Indian, but they're based in Surrey, so near like Kingston kind of way.
All right, yeah.
So pretty much just outside London anyway. But I moved to South London like independently and rented, and yes, so with someone else and stuff, and kind of tried to make ends meet. But I didn't freelance straight away. I had to like work in a nursery and stuff, full of like cute but snotty children. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I went secondary, like teaching at secondary schools, because I can't
literally
deal with the mess that the little kids.
Oh god, I know. You're literally cleaning up like every 20 minutes the same like box of toys. It's just crazy. What do you teach?
English, media, photography, and Chinese.
Wow, cool. That's so cool. Is that full time? Are you full time?
I was, and then obviously everything sort of happened, so I'm currently unemployed. But
fair enough, yeah.
Fingers crossed. It's weird in teaching. The jobs aren't there sort of all year round. They get released in like each half term. So like there's some jobs that are starting to come out for teachers to start in the new year. So
yeah. Oh, fair enough, yeah.
So it's a strange time. But yeah, it's just really peculiar. So I mean, what is your sort of opinion on the creative community, like in terms of like connections and networking? Like, is it important? Do you think it's important? Do you think it's one of those like overrated type of things? Like,
yes, super important. I'd say 1,000,000%. Like, it needs to be one of your top priorities, because if any kind of like person asks me now, like, where do I get most of my jobs from, it would literally be word of mouth, and actually meeting people and networking events and stuff like that. And I find networking events, which sadly enough, because due to COVID and this lockdown period and time, there's not actually been a chance to have networking events, and any kind of networking events that there used to be have now gone on to live webinars, which are excellent, because you can cheat and you can grab all the information from the chat and the talk and the guest speaker, but you can't mingle, which is often probably, and should be for most freelancers, the key aspect. Because fair enough, like, the event might be really interesting and entertaining, but the amount of people you meet that, one, have their own business, or two, know someone that needs your kind of like industry and service and so on. So yeah, I'd say it's super important, like, and not only for jobs really. I think it's really nice to have a lot of people that, one, share the same potential viewpoint, two, are really, really passionate, because a lot of creatives and freelancers get a bit like, they get to a point where they're like, I can't really tell anyone else like how much I love the industry or love my job or love the work when I do get my dream jobs, because you just sound a bit cringy, like, and to be fair, we probably are, but like it's just quite nice sometimes to be in an event and be like, oh my god, yes, like, everyone's on the same vibe, yeah. Yeah, and also many people, and there's a lot of articles about freelancers, or I've read a lot of photography articles, but I think freelancers in general being quite lonely. And I think, like it's definitely a issue and potential out there to be, because unless I'm on set or in a meeting, I am really at home. I mean, there are a lot of co-working spaces nowadays, like Albright and WeWork, and so on. But yeah, you can just be at home, kind of chomping away at like your emails and like marketing and sorting your website and your Instagram and retouching and so on. But actually, you don't get that much kind of like social chat and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm always super busy and I'm quite social at the weekends, and I always have music on, and I now live with my partner, and so on. So I'm kind of not, I don't lack that aspect of it as much, but I can imagine a lot of creators being to a point where it's slightly too lonely kind of working on your own compared to an office 9 to 5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no, yeah. So
Totally. I mean, I know people can't see,
exactly.
but I'm pointing at
Yeah.
myself. Yeah. My fiance, she is a scientist. Like she works in a lab. So she is gone from 8 o'clock till
Oh
5,
wow.
and then
Cool.
the rest of the day I'm sort of here like, right, what the hell what do I do today? And I mean, that's another reason that I wanted to start this.
Yeah.
Really, is
Literally, I
like, I
can
mean, up
imagine. Yeah.
here, I've got a friend who uh, who was going to feature on one of the episodes, the founders of a zine, this and that zine, and they we were talking the other day, and I was saying about, so I'm based in Durham,
Okay.
and right up, like I'm about an hour away from Scotland, so there's nothing here basically. Everybody is old, white, and angry, and
Yeah.
she described them as pale and stale, which I
I love
thought,
it.
wow, that is great. And yeah, so that's one of the reason that I wanted to start this podcast, is because there is nothing here. I mean, everybody here is just pale, male, and
Yeah.
stale. it,
Literally, that's so funny.
it's not.
I think, yeah, but I think that can be quite, like, I during lockdown I stayed with my partner's family who's in Southampton, but I studied in Southampton Uni, so I kind of know the area. But and don't get me wrong, it's not quiet or anything like that, but I was like, at time, and it was really nice to be staying with them and having some kind of like quality time. But at times I was like, oh my god, like I miss the buzz of London, or being on a
Yeah,
tube and sitting next to like a director that's talking about his
yeah,
next feature film, and just
yeah.
listening in and being like, yes, like
Kind of like
hopefully
prodding
I'll
a
be on
bit,
that one
like.
day, or this is my industry, like, do you know what I mean? It's quite nice just to have it. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, hello, just to introduce myself, I'm Kelly. Yeah, exactly. So I know what you mean, like, and I was going for like walks during lockdown and stuff, and working online, but I was definitely lacking, I kind of lost my, like, not drive or passion at all, but I lost why I felt so passionately about my industry and my work, because I kind of remembered being like, yeah, I love it, and yeah, like it's what I want to do. Because I wasn't shooting or retouching, I kind of was like,
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and I mean, something that I have spoke to people about before. The number one thing that has kept people sane during all of this has been the art, and people don't realize that the art reaches from film to photography to
literally,
reading to, I mean, even a calendar is a form of art if it's got the pictures with it. And that is definitely something that I think, if you're not within the artistic community, has been taken for granted almost, like over these past few months. And it's
100%. I
weird
could
that
not agree
you
more with
like
that, to be
that you
fair.
say it about, like, you start to question, like, why am I doing this? Because it's you I think so. I sort of did the same thing, and what I kept thinking was, is it because I'm not getting the recognition, but I'm contributing to a community that is helping people sort of stay sane? And it's very easy to sort of fall into that sort of mindset. I'm like you. I don't come from a creative family. My mum's a nurse and my dad's a radiographer, so they're both medical science. So when I said to them, "Oh, I want to go do English and creative writing at uni," my mum was like, "Oh, that's great." And my dad was like, "You what? You want to write? What?"
I can imagine the facial
And I mean,
expression.
it got even worse when we went to the open day at Salford, and one of the lecturers read a poem, and me and my mum were like, "Oh, that's really good," and my dad was like, "What?" But he's been like it. It was sort of like he was being like satirical almost. He realizes the importance in it, and he was just sort of having a bit of fun with me. But then there are people that are like that, but seriously. I mean, there are people. I mean, I could say to my next door neighbor, "Oh, by the way, I've had my poetry published," and he'd just be like, "What?"
Oh my God. I couldn't agree more with this comment. And I'll try not to name the like friends or family or creators' names, but oh my God, some people like it's just I still get asked like, oh, like so you make money from that, or so you click a camera, and I think okay, like I do not mean to be rude, but I'm living in London. Like, obviously, I'm making money from it.
Yeah,
How do you think I survive? I'm still living. Like, I've clearly fed myself and showered and have a roof over my head. And I think, like, all of these type of questions, like, I actually have really learned over the years to try and separate myself from these conversations, because as soon as someone doesn't want to listen or is never going to be like taken back by your achievement or by you being in a really competitive and difficult field and doing well, then I don't want to be involved, because I think a lot of these conversations I never used to get fussed by them until I kind of like graduated really and was doing it as a career, because I thought, right, what else do you want? Like, I've been published, I'm agency represented, I have 3 qualifications in it, and I'm making money. Like, what, you can't really get any more, like, obviously apart from growing in terms of bigness and being more established and more money and stuff like that, but you can't get anything more like to kind of not gloat about but actually tell them, like.
yeah. No,
So yeah.
it's absolutely spot on, and I'm not going to say who it was in my family, even though if my family listen to this, they'll straight away know who exactly who it is.
They're like, oh
But
dear, that's
but
me.
when I graduated and I got my results for my degree, I got a first class in English and creative writing with Mandarin Chinese. So I graduated with a first class and able to say that I'm bilingual. And this person in my family, and I have I I didn't know how to really take it, but their response was, "Well, everybody's got a degree if they're not using it," and it's like I've got my results
What?
5 minutes ago, like, and then you.
And also, no, you don't. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, in the politest way, the comment doesn't make sense in
I
itself.
was honestly,
Like,
I was like, "Are you for real?" Like 3 years, I picked up a language that I'd never studied before. I was like, I don't care if I sound big-headed. I think I've done well.
but a lot of people like are more impressed by language than like an arts degree. And I think if the fact that you've got the arts degree and you've got language, you're like, hey, this is pretty okay. Like for some sort of fair play, well done. Like,
Oh yeah, God. I mean, God, yeah. I mean, it's plastered all over my CV. I'm like, I don't care if it's big-headed. I'm like, look what I can do. And I think what I'm sort of trying to say is that is something in the creative community. There's this almost like, oh, you want to be an artist, you want to be a model or a dancer. But if you say like that, never happens with. You never hear anyone say, you want to be an engineer. You want to work on aeroplanes. You want to be a pilot.
or someone will be more like someone will be more impressed by you getting a full-time like receptionist or admin job than you making money from working 2 days a week just because the pay is so good for one shoot or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, how is that it just doesn't comprehend, like it just doesn't make sense. But I've really I'm kind of like getting into all this like positive vibrations and energy and all this at last 6 months probably. But I really like try to say to myself, if you're having conversations with these type of people, it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're trying to be mean, but or they're not impressed, but just it's negative for your frame of mind or it's negative for your lifestyle and your dreams. So just talk about something else, because I don't even try anymore. Because there's some people that I repetitively think, oh, like can't wait to tell sunset, or oh, surely they'll be like wow, that's crazy, or that's so good, like fair play, well done, like you've always wanted this or something like that. But I don't even interact in it anymore, really. Like,
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and that's what I mean. Like I say, everybody around here is just
yeah,
pale,
yeah,
male, and stale. I say that a lot, but that is bang on. And it's like they don't have that appreciation for the arts. But if you said to them, like, look, these past 6 months, what have you done? You've read books, you've read magazines,
yeah, you've watched Netflix, you've watched TV every
you
evening, like
scroll through social media, which is blasted with other people's writing and photos. It's like give us a break, man.
literally. And also I think, and don't get me wrong, I think it is an age thing, just because in a polite way they didn't have those potential like things around back then. There wasn't as many apps, there wasn't as much money to be made, there wasn't so much scientific and technological like type of equipment pieces and so on. So they just kind of see it as a really potentially because they don't understand it. And then I think people of our day and age either don't want to give it because one, they're half jealous and not happy in the career they're in, or two, yeah, probably mostly the first one actually. Just because I forgot my second point. But yeah, I think like it's just one of them in the end. Like you just think, okay, well, either you don't understand it, either you're a bit older, or either you just don't want to give credit, and I'm not going to push for that because I don't need it. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
it's sort of like as an artist, you do learn to sort of you learn whose respect you admire and appreciate, because there are people, I mean, there are people that have looked at my work that have said, I don't like that. And that's fine. I appreciate
Yeah, I'd
that.
rather that though than just oh no.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, he's got a camera. And I mean, it's, and I mean, I know it's not really the same thing around bigger cities, but here, if I remember I was out with my camera, I was doing some shots, and there was this couple in their garden, they're about 50-ish, and the woman leaned over to the man and went, he's got a camera, watch out. Genuinely. And it was like, what? And
That's
it's like,
so true, because it's
like,
probably more rural.
it's a
like,
very rural,
quieter, exactly, a quieter community where they're like, oh, bugger,
yeah.
or
I was
like,
like, I've got to walk past your garden to get to the main part of the town. And lens cap was on, it wasn't switched on or anything. I was like, you're not that important. I don't want to take a photo of you sunbathing.
yeah, literally, I'm sorry, but look at the beautiful flower or like scene over there. Like, I'm not interested.
It is. It's absolutely crazy.
But I think these comments are sometimes just easier to, I think, like, don't get me wrong, I say they're easier to avoid just in terms of just avoid them. And sometimes you can't, like, sometimes it still gets to you. And I'm the same, but like, I think some people may know that, like, you're kind of searching for that. Come on, like, give me something. Now I'm doing well, or now I'm doing okay, or now you can say something. But it's actually healthier for yourself to be like, I'm not even going to touch upon that topic. If you ask me how work's going,
Yeah, which I've actually found happens more now.
yeah, because they're
And
interested.
I mean,
Of course they
back
are.
to that person that wasn't very supportive. Now that I've stopped going in and saying I'm doing this project or whatever, they ask about it because I'm not speaking about it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%,
I mean,
100%.
what would you say are some difficulties about becoming a photographer?
Yeah, so difficulty. I'd say one, it would so personally, I'd say it would be the technical aspect. Just because I'm not very technical, and like you could, as you probably, like, anyone that knows me probably look at me and be like, yeah, no, like a young girl, like, probably has no idea how to work a massive set light. And I'm obviously, I do know because I do it, but I'm also like, sometimes like it is the heaviness of the equipment or the kind of technology behind it, and all the, like, it's, as you probably know, photography where like half the lights are bolts and like screws, and I'm like, this is literally, I feel like I'm doing DIY sometimes, like it's actually crazy. Like, or like if I take a massive photography bag, then a light, then a stand, and I don't have an assistant, and not even that my assistant should always be carrying or helping out with all the heavy gear, but I think, Jesus Christ, like, how are you
Yeah.
meant to trek all
It's
this
like
around London sometimes? Do you know what I mean?
freelance
So I'd
photographer,
say, yeah,
plumber,
the weight,
joiner, electrician.
literally. Yeah, honestly, literally, yeah. And I'm like, I'm like lighting designer here, like in all the lights, and then also photographer. I'm like, oh Jesus. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely one aspect. I mean, you can overcome it, but yeah, like I just think the technical side sometimes, like if something doesn't come up on my computer, like, and I'm like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
how do I make this thing come up because I'm shooting like to the camera, like tethering or something, like I slightly blank rather than being like, interesting. I'm just like, oh my
What?
god, like the whole thing's mucked up, like. So yeah, literally. So sometimes it's just the ounce of panic when something technical doesn't go right. And then yeah, I'd say, as probably every freelancer says, like, this is more freelance based rather than photography, but I just say the security.
Yeah.
Like, it is hard to be like, oh, I'm financially fine this month, just because you never really know. And also the amount of like last minute bookings I get when I'm trying to be like, not last minute, like, and then like they're like, okay, we might not do that shoot on that day then, and then 2 days before they're like, okay, we are now, like, da-da. And I'm like, it's contract, it's signature, it's prepayment, it's this, it's that. Like, sometimes that's a tricky one, because you don't want to decline the jobs, or you don't, if they're smaller, you also don't want to decline them because you don't know what else you're getting that month and stuff like that. But it's just kind of juggling. Yeah, I'd say determination. I personally don't have too much of a like problem. I know a lot of people find it quite hard to stay motivated on their own sometimes, but I don't have too much of a problem in the motivation side. I just have more of like sometimes a stress. Same, it kind of links to the technology side of it, but like if I don't know how to do something, sometimes I think, well, who do I actually turn to? Because I don't have a manager, I don't have a boss or a founder of the company. And I've literally come across this last week. Like, I was trying to sort out all my hard drives and my backups, and I went into Apple and they were like, it's a bit of a more like specialized issue because it's for photographers. And I was like, well, it's not. Especially, I'm a photographer and I need storage and backups. How can I do it best? I was like, I'm not asking you about the photography side. I'm just saying, because I'm a photographer, I have a lot of images, like in high res. Like, what would you say would be best? And I didn't come out of the appointment very helpful. Whereas usually I do. I feel like Apple were really good, so usually I do. So I remember walking back to the station thinking, well, what's my next step? Who do I turn to? I didn't really get an answer. Like, and yeah, and I think that's where community comes in. Like, I put an Instagram post out being like, please, someone help, like, about hard drives and like backups, useless at technology. Like, and I got so many people that honestly messaged, and I was shocked. I did not think I'd get that many people, and amazing advice. Honestly, 4 people I'd say have given me like solutions, like full solutions, like, and I've been like, whoa, like, sent me links, sent me audio messages. I was like, wow, like. And I think that's where the community side comes in quite nicely, because freelancers, creatives, people that like kind of into content and media are all quite passionate and all feel the same. So you get to a point where you actually just land up helping each other out when you're not in competition. So yeah, I think no, I was quite taken back about that, and I like thank everyone that kind of did it, because you just realize by someone sending a few of their tips has literally solved an issue you thought you were in on your own. So
Well,
yeah,
that, I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the things as well, because was that the one that I put you in contact with?
Yes. Oh yeah, that was my issue that I clearly mentioned to you as well.
No, so that's the thing. I mean, I read it and I was sort of like, maybe I know someone that can help. And I mean, it's one of those things like, what is there to lose? Like, if I put you in contact with this guy and he goes, sorry, can't help you, it's like, right, okay, awesome. And then you sort of go on to the next person. And that,
exactly. Like, there were so many of them, and I think that's really nice. Same with myself. Even if someone's casting, like, what's it going to do to put up someone's post of being like, hey, looking for a model between 18 to 25 in London on the 26th? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I will just reshare that. But there's a lot of people that think, like, not to do with me, I don't need to post. But sometimes it might help another person down the line that you're in contact with and are a good freelancer. So, I mean, it's a fine line. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't, like, I because I've worked hard for what I've got, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't want to give all my tips away or something like that. But something like storage or hard drives or something technical or casting, like I will always be there to help, because I just think someone did that for me when I was that age. So and still does. Do you know what I mean? So I think, so I mean, some people just message me and be like, "What settings do you use?" And I just think, like, I mean, if it's no big deal, I'll tell them anyway. But sometimes I think, well, one, you could build a relationship. Two, you could give something in exchange. Hey, can I assist you? But then could we have a chat for coffee after, and then pick your brain? It's like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a fine line of stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there was somebody that I was speaking to that I'm currently editing the episode that we've done together. And he's a filmmaker, and his contacts are great. And one of the things that we picked up on is about like how you shouldn't work for free, but you kind of should pay your dues and stuff like that. And he was saying very similar to like what you've just said, like, if I help you, would you be able to help me? Like, approach people like people, not customers, not these. Like, I think that is definitely one of, and it's going to make me sound so old, but that's one of the worst things about social media, is that, like, because you're not actually there, and then you can't read like facial expressions and stuff like that, so it can get a bit sort of almost like distanced, but there's so much there to benefit. So we've actually ran out of time today, but
Yeah, sorry.
no, it's great. I mean, I'm pretty certain that everybody is going to appreciate all the advice and the guidance that you've been given. But I definitely would love to have you back and definitely do another episode.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. So definitely everybody go and check out Kelly's work. I mean, tell them where to go, Kelly.
Yeah, cool. So Instagram's just Kelly, so Kelly, then Gellard is my second name, so Gellard, and then photography at the end. And then my website is the same thing, so www.kellygellardphotography.com.
That's awesome, right? Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll definitely be speaking to Kelly again.